So we've started our 2025 sailing season in Monroe Harbor, Chicago. What did it take to get here? Not too much. I'll summarize the work that was done over the winter, the preparation for the launch, the weather window, and the route to deliver Silver Heels, my Pearson 424 Ketch, to Monroe Harbor for the 2025 sailing season. Hi, I'm Sailor Eric, and if you're interested in sailing or boat maintenance, you have come to the right channel. Since the end of last season, I've completed a number of tasks and projects to make Silver Heels more functional and comfortable, to include cleaning the bilge and other areas that contribute to the possibility of mold and bacteria in the boat. That creates bad smells. Troubleshooting and replacing the running lights at the bow of the boat. Rewiring the power socket for the ST-1000 tiller pilot. Changing the impeller, engine oil filter, and fuel filters. Servicing the winches. Organizing the lockers. Installing latches on the bimini hatches. And the mother project, replacing the battery system on Silver Heels. In addition, the rigging department of the boatyard converted my spinnaker and main halyard into in-mast halyards and replaced my old foresail wire halyard and winch drum into a standard halyard system. Good thing too, because the riggers noticed that the structural components of the old winch were starting to crack. I also had a marine survey conducted for insurance purposes, which found some delamination on my skeg. This is something I plan to repair after this season's sailing is completed. Every year before launching, there are certain things that have to get done on Silver Heels, to include reinstalling the plugs, one at the bottom of the keel and two for the port and starboard water tanks. These plugs are pulled out to let water drain from the tanks and the bilge at the end of the previous season so that during the winter, things are dry and mold free. Reconnect the electronic connections coming from the mast, which include the anchor light, the wind sensor, the spreader lights, the running lights, the radar, and the VHF antenna. Install the SETI table, which is mounted to the mast. Install the sails and supporting rigging onto the masts. This includes the main, the foresail, the mizzen, and the staysail. When I say supporting rigging, this will include the running backstays, the jib sheets, the jib furling line, the lazy jacks, the outhauls, and the halyards. Fill the water tanks and test the systems to make sure they work. At my boatyard, you schedule your launch so that the yard crew has time to conduct the expected work and checks after the boat is in the water and dockside. Boats are normally launched 1 to 3 days before the scheduled departure date. My departure date was originally scheduled for May 10th, but I had to delay that by 1 week when I realized my battery system needed to be overhauled, and I would have to do it with little assistance. As Saturday, May 17th approached, the weather suggested that conditions could become challenging for my particular launch. A steady 20-knot wind was forecast coming from the west for Saturday, May 17th, with possible gusts up to 40 knots. Sailing Silver Heels north to northwest in these conditions didn't concern me too much, as a west wind will not generally build waves on the west side of Lake Michigan, which is where Chicago is. I can reef my sails and definitely decrease the risk of sailing in those conditions. My concern was launching in those conditions, as the boatyard's dock was on the west side of a river and parallel to the bank. With a long modified fin keel sailboat, I would be expected to likely launch stern first in these conditions because the wind would likely keep my bow pinned, and once out into that narrow channel, I would have to turn silver heels through that wind in a racetrack pattern until the bridge raises to let all the boats, all the sailboats, go underneath it. Mind you, this is in the midst of all the other sailing vessels launching on the same day and undergoing similar maneuvers. Here's what that can look like. That strong crosswind gave me pause, and I decided to change the date of my delivery, which meant asking my crew to change their plans on the weekend to help me on Sunday instead of Saturday. Corey and Anatoly came through for me, and Sunday turned out to be the delivery date. The weather conditions forecast for Sunday, May 18th were much less of a concern, with a likely northeast wind blowing at around 10 knots. That kind of wind could blow me off the dock nice and gentle when leaving the boatyard and would not create too much of an issue when navigating the river or sailing back to Monroe Harbor. We would proceed up the Calumet River under the 95th Street Bridge. Then under the 92nd Street Bridge. We would then find ourselves approaching the seawalls protecting the river entrance. It would not be a long distance from this point, about 12 miles from the river entrance to Monroe Harbor. We ended up dealing with a self-inflicted rigging issue as we raised the main. The main halyard was fouled and wrapped around a jackline. That was easy to fix. The northeast wind turned out to be more like 15 knots, and we sailed with jib and main only at our top speed, with the wind coming from our starboard bow quarter. We even had to spill a little wind out of the main to keep the sails balanced. The crew loved sailing fast, so they loved helming in these close reach to beam reach conditions. We easily covered the distance in under 2 hours. There were a few other sailboats out with us around Monroe Harbor as well. One seemed to have problems recovering their spinnaker. It looked like the tack point gave way. This turned out to be a great delivery day and an excellent way to start the 2025 sailing season. I want to extend special thanks to Corey and Anatoly for being flexible and changing their plans to accommodate the delivery. That was excellent. I really appreciate their support. Thank you to my subscribers for the support. If you've watched this video all the way through, please consider pressing that like button, as it would be free to you and benefits this channel by pushing this video out to more potential viewers. This is Sailor Eric. Thanks for watching.